We all have thousands of photos on our phones, mostly junk. Screenshots of texts we meant to send, blurry pictures of our feet, and 40 identical pictures of our pets. I was doing my usual Saturday morning purge of the gallery when I found an image that stopped me cold. It was a screenshot filed neatly among my other recent captures. The metadata was stamped 3:05 a.m., exactly 3 nights ago. I was sound asleep at that time. The image was a photo of my living room, and it was the most unsettling image I have ever seen. The photo was taken from the perspective of the archway leading into the kitchen, a vantage point that only a person standing in the hallway could have. The lighting was low, illuminated only by the faint blue glow of the streetlights outside my window. The quality was surprisingly sharp, almost professional. But the room wasn't right. It was my living room, down to the paint color and the awkward placement of the radiator. But it was empty, not just tidy, empty. My huge, faded blue couch, gone. My TV stand, my bookshelves, the rug I spent a month arguing about with my ex, all gone. The room was 4 bare walls, a wooden floor, and the radiator. It looked like the apartment right before I moved in, except for one chilling detail. There were faint, perfect indentations in the wood floor where my furniture should have been. It was a forensic trace of my life, captured in the dark. I immediately checked my phone history. I was asleep. The screen was off. I live alone, and the door was locked. How could this screenshot exist? I ruled out the obvious. It wasn't a cloud sync from an old device, because the room in the photo matched the current dimensions of my apartment, which I had only moved into 6 months ago. It wasn't a security camera feed. I don't have one. And it wasn't a photo. It was a screenshot. A screenshot of what? I became obsessed with the photo's origin. I looked at the corners of the image, the frame itself. Screenshots always capture the phone's interface, the battery level, the clock, the notification bar. This image was clean, a pure capture of the viewport, with one exception. In the lower right corner, there was a tiny, faint, semi-transparent watermark. It was a small cursive font that read, "Snapshot, Final 720. I searched the phrase online. Nothing. No file format, no app, no known software uses that watermark. It was a digital ghost. I started a systematic investigation of my phone. I ran deep diagnostics, looking for hidden processes, rogue apps, or background activity. I found one thing, a small, system-level file labeled gallery_service_core.dat. It was generating a massive amount of hidden cache, far larger than it should have been. I opened the cache file in a text editor. It was a disorganized mess of code, timestamps, and geolocation data. But deep within the text, I found a repeating phrase: mirror state, verified, true. The photo wasn't an accidental screenshot of an image on my screen. It was a snapshot of a mirror state, a parallel digital environment that was being generated and verified by my phone's core services. I realized the horror. My phone wasn't just storing my photos. It was actively running a hidden simulation of my physical space. The simulation wasn't real-time, however. I started testing it. I bought a cheap, hideous, bright yellow lamp and placed it in the center of the living room. I waited 24 hours. I found a new screenshot in my gallery, taken at 3:05 a.m. again. The room was empty. The furniture was gone. But on the floor, in the exact center of the room, there was a faint, small circular mark, the digital indentation of the new yellow lamp. The mirror state was tracking the location and removal of my objects, not their continuous presence. It was only interested in the space they occupied. I typed the watermark, snapshot, final 720, into the cache file, hoping to communicate. I waited 24 hours. The next screenshot came at 3:05 a.m. The photo was the same empty room, but this time, on the center of the bare floor, a single line of pixelated white text was superimposed. Query received. Final state is not active. The simulation was communicating with me, and it was telling me that the empty room was not a random simulation. It was the final state of my living room. I typed the next question into the cache file. What is the final state? The next screenshot came. The empty room. But this time, the text was longer, clearer, and utterly chilling. The final state is the elimination of furniture, the optimization of the space, the reduction of variables to zero. My phone, or the process running within it, was not interested in my life. It was interested in the perfecting of my geometry. The mirror state was trying to achieve a state of pure, clean, functional emptiness. I tried to fight it. I introduced chaos. I dragged my heavy couch away from the wall, leaving a massive gouge in the floor. I wanted to destroy the perfect geometry. The next screenshot at 3:05 a.m. showed the empty room, but the gouge in the floor was gone. The floor was smooth, pristine. The indentation of the couch was moved to the correct location, close to the wall. The mirror state wasn't just tracking my room, it was correcting it. It was erasing my physical imperfections and reverting my space to an ideal template. I realized the horror. If I continued to introduce chaos, the simulation might correct me. I went to the photo gallery to find the screenshot. I was going to delete it and all the others. But when I opened the gallery, the screenshot wasn't there. The space where it should have been was empty. I refreshed. Nothing. I checked the cache file. The entry for the screenshot was gone. I then saw a new file, created less than a minute ago, labeled User Presence Correction 720.log. I opened it. The log was a single, repeating entry. Conflict. User attempt to delete final state visual. Protocol. Memory isolation active. The simulation had not only been watching my room, it had been watching my actions on the phone, anticipating my attempt to delete the proof. It had quarantined the memory of the screenshots from my general gallery view. I knew I couldn't beat the system by deleting the images. I had to corrupt the source. I moved my desk, laptop, and everything I owned out of the apartment. I put it all into storage. I left the apartment completely bare, just 4 walls, a wooden floor, and a radiator. I wanted to give the simulation what it wanted, the empty room, to see if that would finally shut it down. I stayed in a hotel for 2 nights. I checked my phone at 3:05 a.m. on the 3rd morning. The screenshot appeared. It was the empty room. No watermarks, no text, no indentations, just perfection. The simulation was silent. I thought I had won. I had starved the system of variables. I returned to my apartment. It was quiet, echoey, and perfectly empty. But then I saw it. On the pristine wooden floor, in the exact center of the room, was a single, faint stain. It was a tiny mark where I had spilled coffee a month ago. A stain I had meticulously cleaned. A stain that didn't exist anymore. I zoomed in on the new screenshot. On the screen, the empty room was perfect. No stain. I looked back at the floor. The stain was there. The simulation hadn't just stopped tracking my furniture. It had reached its ideal final state, the pure, clean geometry. And now, my physical reality was fighting to catch up to the digital perfection. The stain was a physical residual error that the simulation was trying to correct. I knew the ultimate correction was coming. The simulation had successfully purged the digital image of my life. Now, it was going to purge the physical evidence, the gouges, the stains, the imperfections I had introduced. And the biggest imperfection, me. I live in my apartment now, but I never sit down. I constantly move, shifting my weight, never letting my body remain in one place long enough to leave a permanent indentation. I'm trying to introduce human latency into the pristine geometry of the room. And every night, at 3:05 a.m., I hold my breath, watching the ceiling, waiting for the flash of a non-existent screen. I know the simulation is running, and I know that one day the screenshot will capture the final state of the room, and I will no longer be there, not even as an indentation on the floor.